Welcome to the final experiments. The final experiments are a preponderance of evidence against flat Earth, and the final experiments all confirm the globe. These experiments were all conducted in December of 2024 when 4 flat earthers and 4 globers went on a journey to Antarctica with me, Will Duffy. We spent time in Punta Arenas, Chile, which is at the southern tip of South America, before flying to Antarctica. This entire trip allowed us to conduct historic experiments and collect data firsthand from an area of the world that few people will ever have the opportunity to visit and do this themselves. Prior to my announcement of the final experiment in early 2024, a vast majority of flat earthers, with very few exceptions, promoted the Gleason's map of the world, which is an azimuthal equidistant projection. This map had the North Pole at the center and pushed the south to the outer perimeter of the known world. This made Antarctica an ice wall perimeter around all the world's continents, which served to hold in all the world's oceans, as flat earthers claim water must have a container. It also extends the entire southern hemisphere into a larger and larger area, where on the globe, everything south of the equator gets closer and closer together. This made being at the southern tip of South America and in Antarctica the perfect place to test flat Earth claims and also confirm the globe predictions. Every single flat Earth claim failed. Every flat Earth prediction was demonstrably false. The final experiments are meant to be taken collectively, just like evidence in a court of law. Undoubtedly, flat earthers will attempt to discredit individual experiments we did, while at the same time ignoring the rest. If they cannot provide an accurate map of the world and a working model that can account for the results of all of these final experiments collectively, that is because we do not live on a flat Earth. If they try to say these experiments are not actual experiments, but only observations, that is because they cannot reconcile our findings with a flat Earth. If they say that flat Earth does not make predictions, that is because making accurate and testable predictions based on a flat Earth is impossible because a flat Earth does not exist. You cannot make and test predictions based on something that is not real. Maps of the globe exist because the globe exists. The entire globe model exists because the globe exists. Countless globe predictions come true every single day, and countless future globe predictions will continue to happen exactly as predicted because the globe exists. If a flat earther tells you that there is no accurate flat Earth map and there is no working flat Earth model and that they don't make predictions, that is an implicit admission that a flat Earth does not exist, because you can map things that exist. You can model things that exist, and you can make very specific predictions that come true based on something that actually exists and is testable. I created the final experiment to give both sides, flat Earth and globe, an equal opportunity to prove their side. Only the globe side returned with evidence supporting their position. The globe side returned with tons of concrete evidence that both accurately matches the globe model and also falsifies flat Earth. This brings us to the South Pole, specifically the geographic South Pole. Flat earthers have said for many years that the geographic South Pole does not exist. And that is simply because a geographic South Pole would be impossible on a flat Earth. Hear them for yourself, starting with a clip from Eric Dubé's video called "The South Pole Does Not Exist."
In the flat Earth model, the South Pole does not exist at all, and Antarctica is instead a gigantic ice wall extending the circumference of Earth, holding in the oceans like a giant bowl.
Because we don't have a South Pole. We don't have a South Pole.
Dave, I was just going to elaborate on Antarctica, the fact that we believe there's only a North Pole, that there is no South Pole.
Wow. Anybody over at the South Pole?
No one's at the South Pole because there is no South Pole.
On a flat Earth, there is only a North Pole. You cannot have a South Pole on a flat Earth. Therefore, the South Pole, which does exist, not only confirms the globe, but also falsifies flat Earth. The globe has both a North Pole and a South Pole. This will be a common theme in this series, where we will see a beautiful symmetry between the northern and southern hemispheres of the globe, a symmetry that is impossible on a flat Earth. The North and South poles are created by the Earth's axis of rotation. A sphere in and of itself would not have poles, and the North and South poles not only confirm the globe, but also confirm the Earth's rotation. The geographic North Pole and the geographic South Pole mark where the Earth's axis of rotation meet the surface of the Earth. These two poles would not exist unless the Earth was rotating. John Santandrea is a friend of mine who I met because of TFE, and John works at the South Pole.
No, you say the South Pole isn't real.
We don't.
Even though there's people who go there and work there, and
people work at the South Pole.
yeah,
prove it. Okay, so
you can get a job there. Did you know that civilians can get jobs?
So the way it works,
you should apply for one.
Not only does he work at the South Pole each year, but he was at the South Pole at the same time TFE was at Union Glacier Camp in Antarctica. Before we get to the importance of that, I must deal with the elephant in the room. Flat earthers deny that the geographic South Pole exists, and they say that this physical pole, where my friend John took this picture for me, is just at some random arbitrary spot in Antarctica. Listen to flat earthers make this claim, even going as far as saying the South Pole is merely a ceremonial pole stuck in the ice and nothing more.
And when you go there, you get a little tour of the edge. You get a little, they bring you to a little pole and they go, hey, this is the South Pole. It's not. It's just a pole stuck in the ground.
Because the so-called South Pole is simply an arbitrary point along the Antarctic ice, marked with a red and white barbershop pole and topped with a little metal ball earth.
Because I think that that's the big thing, is that the South Pole itself it disproves flat Earth. Right. So,
what? The South Pole itself disproves flat Earth.
Wow. Unbelievable.
You do know the South Pole is just an arbitrary position. Yeah, he does know that the ceremonial South Pole is not the actual South Pole.
Let's put this baseless claim from flat earthers to bed once and for all. When flat earthers claim that the ceremonial South Pole is just stuck in the ice in some random spot in Antarctica, nothing could be further from the truth. What they failed to mention is that right on the other side of this ceremonial pole is a research station, the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station. The South Pole Station is a whopping 80,000 square feet. Built in 1992, the building materials weighed 24 million pounds. It's easy for flat earthers to flippantly claim that the ceremonial South Pole is just stuck in some random spot in the ice in Antarctica. They don't mention the South Pole Station as getting 24 million pounds of material and building an 80,000 square foot building in the harshest climate on Earth is no easy task. So the real question is, where is the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station? Of course, we know where it is on the very bottom of the globe at 90 degrees south, where all lines of longitude converge together. But where is the South Pole Station on a flat Earth map? No flat earther can answer this simple question. They have no idea where it is because a flat Earth cannot have a geographic South Pole. Is the South Pole Station south of Australia on the flat Earth map? South of Africa? Maybe south of South America? Somewhere else? They can't answer this question because we live on a globe. They cannot answer this question because a flat Earth does not exist. The correct answer as to where the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station is located is actually carefully veiled in the name of the South Pole Station itself, Amundsen-Scott. The story of Roald Amundsen and Robert Scott is one of the greatest stories in the history of world exploration. This picture was taken in January of 1912 at the same location as the current South Pole Station. But what makes this picture so fascinating is the story behind it. And this story not only confirms the globe, it completely ends flat Earth. Robert Falcon Scott and his men were British explorers and are seen here next to a tent displaying a Norwegian flag. What could this possibly mean? In 1911, Scott set out to be the first man to ever reach the South Pole. 2 years earlier, Ernest Shackleton made it past 88 degrees south, less than 100 miles from the South Pole, but had to stop in order to fight for survival. Unbeknownst to Scott, another explorer, a Norwegian named Roald Amundsen, had decided to forego his planned trip to the North Pole and instead race Scott to the South Pole. One of the greatest races in human history had now begun. Amundsen loaded up his crew and nearly 100 sled dogs onto his ship, the Fram. And strategically, he decided to enter Antarctica at the Bay of Whales, which was a completely different starting point than Scott's team, who planned to enter at Ross Island. Amundsen's team started at 164 degrees west, and Scott's team started at 167 degrees east. They were nowhere near each other and never came in contact with one another. Nearly a year later, after hunkering down through the Antarctic winter, Amundsen's team became the first men in the history of the world to reach the South Pole in December of 1911. But this creates an interesting question. How did they know they were at the South Pole? And where exactly were they? Compasses do not work well in Antarctica and would be completely worthless on a flat Earth, as the cardinal direction south is all directions away from north. So south on a flat Earth is in every direction and would send two people heading south further and further away from each other indefinitely. So what made this spot, this exact location on the Antarctic ice, so special, convincing Amundsen and eventually the rest of the world that he indeed was the first to reach the globe's geographic South Pole? The answer is the sun. Yes, the 24-hour Antarctic sun. The same 24-hour sun that is impossible on a flat Earth. Amundsen and his team found the geographic South Pole using a sextant and measuring the altitude of the sun each hour. From Amundsen's book titled The South Pole. On December 16th, we pitched our camp in brilliant sunshine with the best conditions for taking observations. 4 of us took observations every hour of the day, 24 in all. Remember the sun's wave pattern in our video of the 24-hour sun? That wave pattern is created by the globe. And when the sun reaches its highest elevation of the day, that is solar noon. And when it reaches its lowest elevation of the day, that is solar midnight. But most importantly, that is south. Yes, south on a globe can be found through celestial navigation even with a 24-hour sun. So Amundsen's team followed the direction of the sun when it was at the lowest point in the sky each day. And then on December 17th, 1911, let's read what happened. Observations were now taken every hour through the whole 24. It was very strange to turn in at 6 p.m. and then on turning out again at midnight to find the sun apparently still at the same altitude, and then once more at 6 a.m. to see it still no higher. They had reached the South Pole, where on the globe there is a very unique 24-hour sun, where the sun's elevation angle does not change throughout the day. A flat Earth, yes, including Joe Hanvey's model, cannot account for the change in the sun's elevation angle in Antarctica changing throughout the day, while at the same time not changing at all at the South Pole. Amundsen's team pitched a small tent at the South Pole, topped with a Norwegian flag and a small pennant with the word Fram painted on it, the name of their ship which brought them to Antarctica. Inside this tent, they left a letter for the King of Norway, not knowing if they would make it out of Antarctica alive. They wanted their legacy and pride of Norwegian explorers as the first to the South Pole preserved, just in case. And lastly, they left a letter for Robert Scott on the chance that he would also eventually make it to the South Pole. And then they departed immediately so as to give them the best chance at making it out of Antarctica and back home alive. 1 day shy of 5 weeks later, on January 17th of 1912, Scott and his team, using the same celestial navigation techniques, also made it to the South Pole. And their methods were so precise that they made it to this very spot where Amundsen set up this small tent. They started thousands of miles away from each other at different times, and despite never coming in contact with each other, made it to the exact same spot on a continent 1.5 times the size of the United States. This is remarkable and simply impossible on a flat Earth, but makes perfect sense on a globe. And not only that, no flat earther can show on a flat Earth map where this location is. They cannot show where Amundsen and his team put up this tent and where Scott and his team found it 34 days later. And that is because there cannot be a geographic South Pole on a flat Earth. And despite the fact that two men over 100 years ago were able to navigate and traverse Antarctica and find the same geographic South Pole location, flat earthers still throw out the false claim that no one has ever been to the South Pole.
And it goes all the way out to 90, which would bring you to the South Pole, but nobody's really ever gotten there, provably gotten there, okay? We don't know where this is. Now, Dave, if you were hiking through Antarctica and you're hiking following GPS, NASA said, go this way, and you actually went 500 miles or 1,000 miles, and they said, you're at the South Pole now, you have to believe NASA, right?
Now, here is what I think is the most fascinating thing about the South Pole. Amundsen and Scott set out to be the first men to ever step foot at the South Pole because of their belief that we live on a globe. They were so confident we live on a globe, they risked their lives to find a location that only exists on the globe. They gave up over a year of their lives, left their families and loved ones, hunkered down through an Antarctic winter, and at one point even had to kill and eat some of their own sled dogs in order to survive. And that is what they were willing to do because they believed we live on a globe and they knew the South Pole was real. Contrast that with flat earthers today who are trying to convince everyone that the Earth is flat. Would flat earthers go to such extremes out of their strong conviction that we actually live on a flat Earth?
So when people say, Dave, why did you turn down a free trip to Antarctica? Because I'm not going there to freeze my ass off. I don't have the time to get away. I have plenty that I need to do here every single day.
I'm definitely not going to go freeze my knackers off with a whole bunch of people that I definitely don't trust.
I can't think of a worse way to spend time than going to a cold, remote area with Pedo Pete and the crew.
Now, I'm not in any way comparing myself to the great polar explorers of history, but the final experiment was a historic, modern-day Antarctic expedition. And once again, it was those who believed we live on a globe that were excited to go, spent our own money, and knew without a doubt that we would confirm the globe and see a 24-hour sun. While I did not have to risk death traversing Antarctica with sled dogs, hoping to find enough seals to kill and eat, and leaving my wife and children for over a year, I still made a sacrifice of my own funds to show the world we definitely live on a globe. And that is what the TFE expedition has in common with the Amundsen and Scott expeditions. We were all willing to make personal sacrifices based solely on our extreme confidence that we live on a globe. While the flat earth community complained about the cost and the cold, and many flat earthers turned down free trips to Antarctica, the globe side raised money, tapped into their retirement savings, and planned to do as much experimentation as possible on a once-in-a-lifetime trip to the bottom of the world, where a vast majority will never have the opportunity to see with their own eyes. As they say, actions speak louder than words. I will be covering this in more depth on another video in the Final Experiments series on Southern Hemisphere flights. But there are flights from New Zealand, South America, and Africa to the South Pole. And their flight paths and durations all match the globe and would be impossible on a flat Earth. This is why I ask flat earthers to show me on a flat Earth map where the ceremonial South Pole is. I was watching one of your old videos where you were talking about flights to the South Pole.
Yeah.
And you said that they fly to the South Pole, but then they change direction.
Yes.
Where are they flying to before they change direction?
To the South Pole.
He's gonna say the South
Where-
Pole, of course.
Where is the South Pole?
It's a marker
Where
they
they
put
fly
in
to.
this.
Huh?
Where
Don't
they
worry, I'm
fly
going
to.
down there soon.
Again with your stupid semantics.
No. Where
Yeah,
is
You
it?
just said they fly to the South Pole.
Yeah,
so
where
they're
is-
flying to the South Pole.
Where is the South Pole?
It's a ceremonial place.
And where is it?
At the ceremonial South Pole place where they put the pole up.
And where is it that they put the pole up?
In Antarctica.
But where in Antarctica? You guys make Antarctica so big. Where is it? I want to find it on a
At
map.
the ceremonial South Pole.
And where is
You
that?
guys could have traveled to it from Union Glacier. You do know that.
Sure. I just want to know where it is on the flat Earth.
The flat
Oh, for goodness.
Yeah, in Antarctica.
in the same place. Go away, dude.
And this is precisely why they have no answer. There is only one singular place in the Southern Hemisphere where the 24-hour sun's elevation angle does not change throughout the day. And there is only one place on Earth where the South Celestial Pole is directly above you. And there is only one place on Earth where planes fly to bring people and supplies to the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station. Such a privileged place cannot exist in the South on a flat Earth because a flat Earth spreads the South out to a bigger and bigger area. But as we have now seen, the South Pole is truly one of a kind and is now visited by thousands of people every year. And if you will never have the opportunity to visit the South Pole, At the end of this video, enjoy videos of the 24-hour sun, the 24-hour moon, and the South Celestial Pole, all taken from the only place possible on this planet, the geographic South Pole. Please watch our other experiments, which are part of these final experiments, where you will see results that confirm the globe and results that would be impossible on a flat Earth. And please share this video with anyone you know who is a flat earther or considering flat Earth. As Jesus said in John 8:32, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.